Product selection. Introduction. We have looked at the operation as the process of converting inputs into outputs and thereby adding values to some entity. This concept of value addition is very important to effective management of operations functions. Although the conversion takes place inside the organization, the addition of value occurs only when it is perceived to have done so by the customers of the product or service in the marketplace. This concept changes the orientation of an operations manager from totally inwards looking to one who is alert to the needs of the customers. As we go on to discuss the strategic decisions in operations management in the next couple of units, this issue will come up again and again, and it's not out the place to remind ourselves once more that it is not enough to produce a product or service, but it has to be produced to so that there is an added value as perceived by the market. Although we differentiate a product from a service above, this differentiation becomes very hazy and confusing. For example, if we are selling a computer, we are selling a product, of course. However, instead of selling the computer, we if we start leasing it out our customer, that are we selling now a product or a service? On the other hand, so far as the customer is concerned, he is using the computer exactly in the same manner in both the cases. The, the difference is only in terms of payment and the legal ownership of the assets. Similarly, even when the computer is sold outright, we are also selling after sales service and other customer supports services along with the computer. Thus, we start seeing that so far the customer is concerned, he is only buying some benefits in all these cases, and these benefits are services. Services are bundles of benefits. Some of this may be tangible and others intangible, and they may be accompanied by facilitating goods or goods. If there are no accompanying facilitating goods, example, getting a haircut, we will refer to these services as pure services. All inputs of an organization are service, and in this unit, we would take a deeper look at output selection. Thus, although we have titled the unit as product selection, we would like to pursue it as output selection, keeping in view the service nature of any organization that we presented above. In what follows, the term product is thus used in its generic sense and is meant to include services. A strategic decision. Product selection is a strategic decision for any organization. Such decisions are long term decisions, and the organization commits itself to the product or products selected for a long time to come. What products to produce in what form and with what features is very important, because many other decisions, for example the technology used, the capacity of the productive system, and the location of the production facilities, the organization of the production functions, the planning on control system, etc., are dependent on this. The competitiveness and profitability of firm depend on in part on the design and quality of the product and services that it produces and on the cost of production. The design of the product or service may make it expensive to produce, and a change in design may take it possible to produce the same in a less expensive way. Similarly, one design of a product or service may require large and expensive additions to capacity of some process, whereas a change in design may make it possible to produce the same with existing capacity. Product selection is a strategic decision thereby involves other functions areas like marketing, research and development, and as well also the top management here therein. The operations management functions provides vital inputs regarding the productions of the product or service in this decisions making. Product producibility. The product selection process is a highly integrative process. The product function, cost, effective, and reliability are some of the points to this decision. The product's producibility of a product or service measures the ease and the speed which the output can be produced. The specialized equipment, specialized skills, and specialized tooling facilitate in switching production from one product to another, etc., and are thus important factors to assess product producibility. It is also important to look at the complete range of products produced, because a new product may either use the capacity of processes, sub processes already established, or may require the establishment of capacity of some processes, sub processes. A family of similar product is much similar to produce than a family of dissimilar products.
Our next topic is the product selection process.
Product selection processes. Product selection is an ongoing process in any organization. In fact, as the environment changes, the new technology is developed and a new taste are formed. The product should benefit from these developments. Otherwise, what is perceived to have added value today may not be perceived as such tomorrow. For example, jute has been in use as a packing medium for a long time. However, with changes in technology and consumer taste, the same product is now perceived to have added value, and therefore its demands has reduced. Product selection stages. The process of creating, selecting, developing, and designing the output of an organization is shown in Figure 1. We will follow the same sequence in our discussion as well. Output possibilities are generated from many sources. A. From the field itself through market research, which can take the form of consumer surveys, dealer surveys, opinion polls, etc. B. From research laboratories. This can be due to breakthrough achieved by pure research or applied research in developing new knowledge. C. From conscious and formalized attempts to generate new ideas and products or services. These ideas can be generated by using techniques like brainstorming, panel discussion, scenario building, technology forecasting, etc. The output ideas thus generated as then screened where their match with corporate objectives and policies is right, and their market viability is established. A detailed economic analysis is then performed to determine the probable profitability of the product or services. The non-profit organizations, this takes the form of a cost benefit analysis. This is formed by development of the product or services from a concept to a tangible entity, and finally by design and testing. No smooth sequence, although Figure 1 despite product selection as a sequential process where one stage follows another. In reality, the process may not be so smooth as shown. Thus, economic analysis may have to be done after output development if reliable cost estimates are not available at the earlier stage. Similarly, new product features may be added to any of the above stages, thereby initiating a whole new cycle. Finally, as product selection in an ongoing process, there is no finality to the process since as some new product ideas are being produced. Still, new ideas enter the output selection processes, and this may go on and on. The product selection process therefore ensures a continuous match between what is demanded and what is produced. In some cases, the production processes has also to be designed along with the product or services. This has to be done, for example, when the market viability of the products depends on low cost, and so the production process has to be decided along with the product design. Or take the case of another product where it is felt imperative to obtain a large market share right from the initial launch. It may become necessary to establish a large capacity of the production process right from the beginning. The production process has to be designed along with the product in such case. New idea mortality curve. The previous section highlighted the fact that an input possibility has to cross several hurdles before it enters a market as a commercial product or service. The new idea mortality curve presents the same in a geographical manner. Figure 2 shows the mortality curve for the hypothetical group in 50 chemical produced product ideas. Although the product ideas are hypothetical, still the stage wise mortality as well as the time frame shown is quite indicative. Figure to assume that after 3 years of after 3 years of research, 50 potential chemical product ideas are available for consideration. Initial screening reduces the number to about half, and after economic analysis by the end of year bore, but the number of potential products decreases to 9. The mortality of ideas continues over time, and by the end of a 5.5 year, at the completion of the product and process development stage, the number has already fallen to the after about 5. Decision and testing reduces this further to about 3, and by the end of the construction, market development and commercialization, just about one successful power is left. Figure 2 is Figure 11 is based on the international experience and situation in India has not been tested empirically. Thus the mortality curve should be treated as an indicative proportion in the Indian context. Cost of new product ideas. The new ideas mortality curve also points to another fact by implication. The cost of pursuing different new product ideas till their abandonment is also to be borne by few successful products. This significantly increases the cost of new product development and justify the rationale of collaborative research. The research and development for this product is carried out at one place, and later on the knowledge gained is made available to the collaborating organizations, which are then free to make independent product developments of their own. A similar concept holds for our industrial research institutions in the government sectors. For example, in the early stages of development of the television industry in India, Central Electronics Engineering Research Institute Pilani CEERI developed an indigenous design of a black and white television set and made it available to the television manufacturing organization for a fee.
Our next topic is selection of the products.
Selection of the products. At the research stage, the priority should be generation of new ideas. In fact, it is better not to start the screening process till the reasonable opportunity has been provided to generate all new ideas. This is because different thought processes are required to generate of new ideas and for a rational analysis of the same. Consideration of one new idea may generate a better idea, whereas an evaluating analysis produced early in the process may hamper the creative process of idea generation. Some techniques for idea generation, for example, brainstorming, explicitly prohibit and analysis or criticism based on analysis of suggested idea at the idea generation stage. Once a number of potential new products or services idea have been generated, the process of screening them to evaluate the select the best idea is set in motion. This can perhaps be discussed in two phases: a qualitative phase where the new product idea I studied in terms of its match with the corporate objectives and the corporate strategies of the organization. The second phase is more quantitative in the same as potential cost and revenues. For benefits generated, new products are qualified and an economic analysis is performed to establish the economic viability of the new product or services ideas. Screening: the new product or service idea is assessed to establish its market viability as well as to find out if it is in the larger corporate interest in the organization to add this new product or services to the current output of the organization. A product or services has to have sufficient demand, or else it may not make such sense to produce it at all. Of course, what is considered sufficient by one organization may be considered to be grossly insufficient by another. Also, a demand for a product or services is dynamic, and although the current demand for a product or service may be assessed to be low, an organization may still decide to retain the new output idea for further analysis if it assessed that the demand will grow in future. For example, vacuum cleaners are still in the introduction phase of their product life cycle in India, and an organization may select this as its product if it assessed that sales will grow in the near future. Each organization has some corporate strength and weakness. New product or service idea should capitalize on the strength and should attempt to reduce the weakness to the extent possible. On the other hand, if one of the determinants of success for a new product or service ideas is already perceived to be corporate weakness, such as such a product or services does not have a good fit with the strength and weakness profile of the organization. For example, if strong design capability is identified as a corporate strength of an organization, then adding heat exchange to its list of products which have to be custom designed and built is trying to exploit a corporate strength. On the other hand, another organization which is identified design capability as one of the weakness would perhaps select cord centrifugous, which are standard products and offered off the shelf. It is important to realize that strength and weakness are relative and also perceive. The same features can be perceived to be strength by one organization and as weakness by another. For example, low investment in capital assets can be considered to be a strength, since this gives the organization greater flexibility in product selection and adjusting to changes in demands, whereas the same can be perceived to be weakness when capacity cannot be hired from outside or the quality of jobs get done from outside is unsatisfactory. What is important to ensure that there is a close match between the strength and weakness of the organization and the requirement for the product or service to succeed. In product selection, many organizations try to get synergetic result by exploring one or more of the following four factors. First, familiarity with similar products or services. Familiarity with the same or similar production or transformation processes to produce the product. Third, familiarity with the same or similar markets or market segments. Fourth, familiarity with the same or similar distribution channels. Thus, it is perhaps natural for a firm manufacturing ceiling fans to include a heat similar production process, similar market segments, and even the same distribution channel. On top of it, it can also reduce its weakness of having a highly seasonal capacity utilization. The above discussion also highlights the fact that any idea for a production or service have also to be seen in relation to the effect on the existing product or services. A new product may find a market for itself can by cannibalizing on one of the existing product. A new brand of a biscuit may create its market by a corresponding reducing in demand of another brand from the same firm unless the two are carefully targeted at different segments. We have referred to the strength and weakness of an organization as relative. But relative to what? Of course, it to the competition. There is no competition, which is very unlikely. There is no need to match the product requirement with the relative strength of an organization. For totally new product or service, even if there is no competition presently, very soon competition will perhaps develop and it is desire to remain ahead of the competition that provides the motivation for continuous inflow of new product ideas. Whatever be the relative strength and weakness of any organization, it is very unlikely that an organization can be successful or if its strengths are only in marketing, finance, and another non-operational areas. In fact, for long-term success, it is also imperative that sound operations management is one of the strengths of the organization. Sometimes a new product or service ideas having very poor match with the existing strength and weakness of the organization is consciously adopted. This can happen if the organization feels that the existing products or services have reached the decline phases of their product life cycle, either on their own due to some changes in the environment, example government policy, introduction of better and cheaper substitutes, changes in prices of some inputs, etc. For example, when ITC's Ltd described to diversity into hotels, these new services ideas did not exploit any of the four familiarity factors which could have given some synergetic results. Economic analysis and economic viability of new product or services idea ties up most of the concept that we have talked so far in quantitative terms to the extent possible. What this means is that the economic value of the returns must exceed the economic value of the cost incurred to produce the output. The commercial organizations, the measurement of the returns and cost is effectively straightforward and economic analysis in a way becomes synonyms with profitability analysis. The cash flows generated as well as consumed it if the new product or services ideas is implemented have to be established estimated for the life of the project. However, since there is a time value of money, these cash flows cannot be directly added to the subtracted, so the cash flows are discounted to take care of the time values of the money, and the net present value of all cash flows in obtained or yields. The cash flows are used to find an internal rate of return. The details of how to discount cash flows are discussed in the course MS4. Non-profit organizations. For non-profit organizations, these may not be cash inflow at all, or else the cash inflows may occur at extremely fixed prices. For such organizations, economic analysis generally means the cash cost benefit analysis, which is similar to the cash flow analysis mentioned earlier, but now the net present values of all benefits less that of all cost is used to as an indicator of economic viability. The benefits imply an addition of real resources to the society as a whole, whereas the costs imply using up real resources as a result of implementation of the new product or service ideas. These items on of cost and benefits are valued so that they reflect the social willingness to pay for some. Whereas free market conditions exist, the market prices can be used to values the cost of benefits. On the other hand, economic prices are first estimated and you then used to values those costs and benefits for which free market conditions do not exist. Economic analysis is therefore much more difficult for non profit organizations than for organizations having a profit motive.
Our next topic is product development.
Product developing. Product development concerns itself with modification or extensions provided to the ideas as to the improve the functioning of cost and the value of for money of the product. Development efforts improves the performance of the product, adds options and additional features, and even add variants of the basic products. On the whole, development efforts is innovative research which is more inventive. The thrust being on developing new product ideas, technologies, and processes. Development efforts. Figure 3 charts the development efforts over the time typical products. The figure also shows the effort made for research to shows the relative magnitude of effort as well as the timing of the two. Development starts the after research has established an idea which has been examined, evaluated, and even refined. The development efforts rises initially as the performance of the product or services is improved and as the product itself graduates too. The growth phases of its product life cycle. The development efforts still continues to rise, but now the result is mainly providing options. As the product reaches its maturity, the development efforts has packed and thereafter gradually starts reducing it. In this phase, product variant are developed and offered so as to lengthen the life cycle. This is follow the extension of the product, and figure 111 highlights the fact that product development in an ongoing process which starts as the product is launched in the market and continues till it's withdrawn from the market. What is more important, research or development? Development can start only when research has produced a product or services idea which is technically feasible and economically viable. However, greater effort is expended on development as compared to research is most part of the world today that it was, say, 30 years ago. This is partly because the new product, example color television, are more complex and require longer to debug and to improve their performance. This could also be true because research has become very expensive and organizations are under pressure to commercialize research as early as possible, even before the product or service ideas have been refined and debugged. But one possible consequences of this shift away from research is that organizations make themselves vulnerable to technological breakthrough, which can give rise to a whole new generation of the product or service itself. The trade off between research and development is an important strategic decision for most organizations.
Our next topic is product design.
Product design. As a design stage, detailed specifications are provided so that manufacturing can produce what has been designed. This means not only providing dimensional specifications but even specifications regarding capacity, horsepower, speed, color, etc. are laid down, and the task of manufacturing is to convert the design into physical entities. Product varieties. There are two distinctly different priorities that can affect the design of the product or the services. The higher the standardization, the greater will be the ease in producing. On the other hand, customer have different needs, and by adding variety, one can satisfy more customer. Standardization attempts reduction in variety and better use of productive facilities, thereby achieving lower unit cost. If the demand for the product or services is strong when the price is low, organization will try to minimize unit cost through standardization, and most of the competition will based on prices. There are other cost related advantages due to standardization. It simplifies operational produces procedures and thus reduces the need for money controls. The organization can buy raw materials and components in bulk and thus get quantity discounts. It enables steady flow of materials through work in centers and thus reduces the number of production sets ups related to change in flow. It reduces the total inventory of raw materials, work in process, and finished goods. Finally, since the effective volumes becomes larger as the variety is reduced, high volume productions method become viable, thus giving economies of scale in production itself. The standardization is very useful concept, but production needs have been given the highest priority in this scheme of things. This may be a very good approach to product design as long as cost is primarily basis of competition. Otherwise, we can design a product to suit the diverse needs and tastes of the customer. All watches are meant to display the right time, but still company like HMT has hundreds of models of watches with different movement, dial shapes, sizes, and other features. By adding variety, and organization attempt to satisfy the varied needs and tastes of its customer and completes price considerations as well. The other one method used to obtain variety of or perceived variety and yet hold down cost is through modularization. A product is designed using module or sub assemblies that are interchangeable and each different combinable of modules gives the new variety of the product. For example, two different movements, three dial shapes, two dial sizes for each shape, and three different colors will give two 2 by 3, 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3, that is 36 variants of watches, yet making large quantities of standard modules. Design implication attempts to simplify the design so that produce the product or its parts becomes similar to produce. This might mean combining two or more parts into one so that some assembly operations are eliminated. In some other situations, it might involve replacing screw fastened parts by parts which can be snapped tight in place without any fasteners. Design simplifications gives pay off the term of lower production cost and in some cases by lower material cost as well. Structuring of options. Options provide variety to product, increasing its attractiveness to a spectrum of users while retaining operations as simple as possible. We can see options products everywhere, for computers and office furnitures to automobiles and machine tools. Even service have options built in. For example, in vehicle insurance. Structuring the operations is a major part of making a product line competitive when not competing on cost alone. However, options bring in their own complications as well. For example, pricing becomes much more complicated since each options may not have the same margin. A lot of sales effort is required explaining options or determining what the customer wants, and it complicated the customer's choice. Options also gives the customers an opportunity to change their mind, and this creates additional difficulties other the products is made to order. All options are not used to the same extent, and low uses option parts becomes hard to plan and control when mixed with a high uses option part. CAD CAM. A part can be computer designed, computer aided design, and its fabrication instructions can be generated by computer aided manufacturing. CAD CAM. This has advantage that manufacturing equipment is not tied up for long period during setting up time. Practically all the preparation time is in programming, where detailed instructions regard to the physical task to the performed and sequence in which these have to be performed are operation written into the program, which can be read and executed by the computer having the machine tools or any other manufacturing equipments under its control. This then allows for every small batch size without losing an economy. Finally, because information regarding the design and the manufacture of the product and component is available on computer files, it is possible to use the data together with the other information on materials, tools, etc. for producing, planning, and control purpose, thus achieving computer integrated manufacturing CIM that has great importance for the future. CIM is not yet a reality, but is certainly the direction towards which manufacturing in some industries is proceed. Design characteristics and trade-offs. By now, it should be quite clear, and there are many product features which can be affected by product design. In fact, Operations management normally has a major role to play while final products characteristics are set. The key elements to be considered in product design are: A. Function. The new design must properly meet the recipient needs and perform the functions for which it is designed. B. Cost. The total cost incurred in producing the new idea should not be excessive, else that will affect its demand. C. Quality. The quality of the new design should be as high as possible within the constraints of the cost. Quality can cost money, and excessive quality will increase the cost and reduce demand, whereas inadequate quality will affect the performance and lead to complaints and falls in demand. D. Reliability. The new designs should function normally without failure for the expected duration. This is more important for complex designs involving many elements, and the design must provide the redundancies and high reliability of elements so that system responsibility reliability can be obtained. The other elements which are also important in a production design, perhaps to a lesser degree, are: E. Appearance. If the new design can be made more attractive without sacrificing on the other attributes, this is only likely to improve the demand. The relative importance of appearance varies from product to product, and in many industrial equipments, it may have a relatively small effect. F. Environmental impact. The new design should not degrade the environment. G. Product safety. The new design should not pose a hazard to the recipient. H. Productivity. The new design should be producible with ease and speed. I. Maintainability. This is particularly appreciable to the customer durables and industrial equipments. If a failure occurs in equipment, it should be easily reliable with a minimum of downtime. J. Timing. This is particularly relevant for design of services. The services should be available when desired by the recipient. K. Accessibility. This element is also applicable to services. The recipient should be able to obtain the services without difficulty. The last two factors are important for design of services since services cannot be inventorized. In both production and service design, many alternatives usually exist that will meet the basic functions of the output. The design task is to recognize the major characteristics of the demand and to carry out a detailed analysis of the trade offs available among the various design alternatives so as to meet the needs of the recipient as closely as possible. Sometimes, when the needs of the recipients are diverse, design will produce different models of the versions of the same basic product to satisfy the needs of the different segments of the market. This can be seen from the various models of television produced by almost every television manufacturer, or the economy and the executive classes of air travel offered by the Indian Airlines. The impact of product innovation or process innovation. The design of a product or services has very close linkage with the design of the process required to reduce it. In some cases, the product design itself becomes feasible only because of the technical innovation. Throughout the product life cycle, the process of product development goes on, and we have looked into these aspects in section 4.4. It has been found that similar innovation take place in a process design as well. Product innovations are primarily needs simulated, and the emphasis in the maximization of product performance. The process typically uncoordinated in the stage, and process innovations are primarily output rate stimulated. Product innovations are gradually decreasing while process innovations picked up at this stage. In stage 2, both product and process innovations are technology simulated. The productive market design emphasizes cost minimization as competition in the market begins to emphasize price. Process innovations started dominating over product innovations as they yield greater reductions in the cost. The product or services has reaches maturity and saturations by the third stage, and innovations are stimulated primarily by cost consideration. The productive processes becomes higher integrated, and product focused operations try to achieve economies of scale by having integrated plans of large capacities.
Our next topic is summary of the unit product selection.
Summary of product selection. We have looked at the process of bringing new product and services to the market in this unit, and the role of operations in that process. We identified all inputs of an organization as services, sometimes along with a facilitating goods and sometimes without that. Product selection is a strategic decision for an organization, and the top management as well as functions like marketing, R&D, and engineering have a role in the market of product selection decision. We looked at the stage involved in bringing new output and from the ideas stage into a tangible entity in the market. New product ideas are generated through market research laboratories themselves, or conscious formalized attempts. These ideas have the very high mortality, and the new idea mortality curve showed that hardly 1 or 2% of all new ideas are carried throughout through the market. New product ideas are first screened for market viability and their fit with corporate strategies and weakness. These are then subjected to an effective analysis. New product ideas are then developed. Features are added to or dropped. Variations introduction, and the product is finally designed and tested for the commercial bunch. Product design attempts to introduce a product having characteristics as close to what is desired by the customers as possible, and this involves trade-offs between elements like a function, cost, quality, reliability, and others like producibility, maintainability, product safety, environment impact, etc. Finally, we found that in product innovations and process innovations are closely linked to the life cycle of the product itself.